All right, welcome back to another episode of Wellness Unplugged. I'm here with Shaman Morton, and I want to call him Shaman, but there's a story behind why it's Shaman and not Shaman. I'll let him tell that. So, but he's got his own journey. At some point in time, something went click in his head, and he said, "You know what? I don't want to be sitting on the couch just playing video games, getting fat, and losing my health." And he decided to get off his butt and do something about it. And so, we're going to dive into Shaman's story here. So, but first of all, where are you coming from, Shaman?
Coming from a little tiny place in Virginia, Ruckersville, like a small little town. It's like the place where my entire family's from, except for I'm not really from, but I came back to as being like an army rat. So that's a whole story in itself.
All right, so small town in Virginia. What is Virginia known for?
Virginia is known. The slogan is "Virginia's for lovers," which is okay, we got that. And ham, like that is the one thing like that we're known for is like Virginia ham. Like,
okay,
it's strange, but I don't even really like ham.
Yeah, I was like, I just saw a video on your Facebook page where you were cooking a brisket, and man, it looked good. I was like, I want brisket now.
Oh,
and so
that's the thing. Cooking for me is like it's the greatest thing next to podcasting.
Yeah.
I love cooking. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, and I really like picked that up from my mother, who's like the best cook. Of course, everyone says that about their mother, but my mom is actually the best cook that I've ever had the pleasure of eating their food.
All right. So, and are you near the coastline, or are you inland? Is there mountains around you?
No, I'm really like in the middle. Like,
okay,
I'm the middle. It's I'm pretty distant away from the coast, so it's not that bad.
Okay, and before we dive a little more into your story, I kind of want to know, how do you make a brisket?
Okay, so basically, number one thing you want to do, you want to trim it. Make sure you don't have too much of a fat cap, but you don't want to take too much of it off. Square it off as the number one thing. And a lot of people want to like throw a whole bunch of different spices and things to it. That's really counterproductive to me. Basically, salt, pepper. Want to get a little fancy, maybe a little garlic powder, but for the most part, just salt, pepper. You want to get your smoker. I use primarily hickory, and sometimes a little cherry, and I'll get that the smoker going to about 225.
Okay.
Put the brisket in, just let her go, do her thing for about 6 hours to get that that good bark built up on it, and then take it out, wrap it in butcher paper, set her back in till that internal temperature gets up to about 190, 195. Set her out in the cooler, let her come to full temperature, let those juices come all back together.
Yep.
And you got yourself a good time.
Yeah, I want some like right now. That sounds amazing. And I'm kind of curious, like, you mentioned like cherry versus hickory, and can you really tell a distinct difference in a smoker if you change like say to applewood or cherry or hickory? Or
a little bit. I've come to notice it the more and more you do it, just like with anything, the more times that you actually experience something, like you pick up on those little small notes. It's pretty much the same way of like I'm not a big wine person, but like a Sauvignon, they come up and they can tell you like all the different notes. Wine is wine to me. I don't know, like, it's like hint of chocolate or something. Like, I don't know, it's wine. But when it comes to barbecue, I know barbecue. So
okay,
like, that's my thing.
That's awesome. So you're a barbecue connoisseur, because there's a lot more to it than just barbecue sauce, which I think in many cases is almost like sacrilege. You're almost like ruining a piece of meat or you're covering up for a piece of meat if you got to put a lot of barbecue sauce on it.
Had one of these discussions before about a steak, and someone literally said like, I want my steak well done. And I was like, okay, if we go to a steakhouse and you order a steak and you get that steak well done, you owe it to yourself to apologize to that animal for what you did, because you destroyed it. And if you put ketchup or like a Savage or steak sauce on a steak, that's a horrible steak. That is you're doing it wrong. Like, that steak needs to come to you medium rare, nice center, salt, pepper. That's it. It's amazing. Grilled, nice char on the outside. It's It is the greatest thing ever. It is a gift unto. I'm sorry for all my vegetarian and vegan friends out there, but I'll tell you what, you need to have a medium rare steak. You have to.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
it is a moral imperative.
And someone mentions might as well order a burger.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And Jeff says, speaking the truth, Shaman.
Because and here's the thing, since we're okay, if you're eating that burger, you're eating like 40 different cows. Just putting that out
Yeah.
there.
So this is really interesting in one sense because I'm moving down the rabbit hole of the ethical omnivore movement, and so I'm bringing like organ meats into my repertoire. Have you ever cooked things like beef heart or chicken gizzards or anything like that?
I haven't done that, but here in Virginia, a lot of my friends and family, they're hunters,
Okay.
so they're out there in the woods. I've gone a couple of times. I've never killed anything, which is sad unto itself. But one of a friend of mine, they killed a deer, and I was like, I want the heart.
Yeah.
I want to try it. And that's the one thing that people get really hung up on when you talk about the heart, because the heart you feel in your chest, it's organ. It's actually a muscle,
Yes.
unlike anything else. Like you have to go in and clean out like the ventricles and stuff inside of it. But if you take it, slice it thin, and sear it,
Yes.
serve it up with some caramelized onions, you're in for an incredible meal. Like, don't be afraid to eat a heart. Like, just have a heart. Like,
Yeah.
a heart a day will keep the doctor away. Just like go out there and do it.
Yeah, I'm absolutely on the same page because I just did a beef heart for the first time, and what a huge difference it made. Like it was kind of akin to making a very very lean steak. I think that's what I would describe it as because there's no fat inside the muscle. So searing it, you have to sear it, and yeah, you've got to cook it like medium rare at most because otherwise you're going to end up with like a rubber boot. So if you know how to cook a good steak, you should be able to cook good heart, and heart's rich in like coenzyme Q10 and a bunch of other vitamins and minerals. So
No, it's actually, it's not only is like does it taste good, it's really like actually good for you. Like that's the one thing that people, I'm pretty sure, they fear is like eating wild game. If it's hard to catch, it's going to be good for you.
yeah.
Like these cows, they sit out here in these fields all day getting massaged and eating their grain and eating their field, and they're just sitting there. Like that's why you don't hunt cows.
You could, but it wouldn't be very sporting.
No, it's literal fish in a barrel. It's just like they'll come up to you, like he's like slap them unconscious, basically.
Oh man, I'm gonna drop that in the comments. It's hard to catch. It's probably good for you.
I mean, it's actual sense. I mean, you think about it, like if it's hard to get, it's got to be good for you.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to be like probably like a lean, athletic, muscular, healthy animal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll shift gears a little bit here because you've got a bit of a health story as well. So there was a point in time where you found yourself kind of getting unhealthy. Did you ever struggle with your weight as a kid, or is it something that kind of came in adulthood?
So as a kid, as a young kid, I was always chubby. I was always like the little chubby kid. Plus, I was like the trash compactor for like leftovers at the house, and I was like, and my parents growing up, they didn't have a lot. So
Yeah.
anytime they could provide something for their children, especially meals, which was something that, they didn't always have in excess. So to be able to like, here, no, eat as much as you want. No, here is food, was a positive thing for them, which I understand. But for a little chubby kid like myself, that grew to be like, okay, I'm eating everything.
Yeah.
Like I have no turnoff. So, but once I started hitting puberty, I get my growth spurts in and leaned out because I was getting taller. So, and I was playing sports in school. So, it was easier for me to be, much slimmer, and I walked everywhere. So I
Yeah.
was getting cardio and doing things like that. But then as you get older, you get married, you settle down, you get comfortable. because at the end of the day, that's what you really want. You want,
Yeah.
your comfort zone. You want to be like nuzzled and sit away and be like, this is nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we all want. Like I don't care what anybody tell you. Like really, at the end of the day, that's what you want. You just want to.
Yeah.
This is nice. But the problem with that is you start packing on pounds because you don't want to do anything, but you keep eating in excess, and you always eat the things that taste the best, like
Oh
cake,
yeah.
cookies. So I like ballooned up to like well over 300 pounds.
Yeah.
And
And
in
how
my
tall are you?
head, 6'3".
6'3". Okay, yeah, be well over 300 pounds, but in your head.
But I would tell everybody, like, I wear it well, because I was like, until you look back at pictures of yourself, you're like, Jesus, like why didn't nobody say anything? And here's the thing, this is the thing I always say is like the thing how I describe myself is jolly,
Yeah. Yeah.
like I'm the fat dude that can tell the jokes. No, it's the fat dude, but nobody really wants to be described as jolly, like at all. Like if someone's describing you as, it's like when you're a kid and they call you husky.
Yeah.
It's a polite way to say that you're fat. It's like just like scrappy means you're annoying, like in a
Yeah.
good way. That's really what it means. And so it got to a point where my wife, she said she wanted to try to lose some weight with this new military diet that her uncle had tried. So I was like, fine, I'll try it. Might as well do something. And I noticed the weight was starting to come off, and I was like, okay, now let's try lifting some weights and see what this does. And then,
Yeah.
oh, and I will never forget. I was pretty significant into my weight loss, and going to movies was something like I always do in the Marvel movies, and it just so happened to be at this time Black Panther was coming out. I was like, I got
Yeah.
Panther, and I'm watching Black Panther, and I'm like, Marvel heroes are in shape.
Yeah.
I can get in shape. And it just so happened that Chadwick Boseman, RIP, he and I were the same age. And I'm
Okay.
like, if he can get in that kind of shape, maybe I can get in that kind of shape.
Nice.
And that provided that extra fuel for me to make it a constant thing. Like, I don't know, maybe you can see in the back, like,
Yeah, you got your weights back there.
And it's just become that thing for me, and it's been great. It's like one of the biggest things that I've done for myself ever.
Yeah. Well, I've heard a term, love chub. And I think that term is describing kind of what happens when you get into a settled and a committed relationship. Because we could argue that from like a sort of a primal human standpoint, one of the reasons why we want to look physically attractive is to attract a mate. But once we've accomplished that, it's like, well, do I really need to worry about being physically attractive? And so we start to settle into just being comfortable and packing on what I've heard called the love chub. So
No, that is a true statement, because here's the thing. Here, like, and we don't really want to admit this to ourselves, but we do. We all want to be that, protagonist in the action movie.
yeah.
That's what we all want to do. That's what we envision for ourselves. As cool can be. Always get the girl, always drive the car. Once you're in that committed relationship and that safe relationship that we're all striving for, you still see yourself as that.
Yeah.
However, you don't do the things that you did in order to be that, to find that mate, that person you want to be with. And you don't see the change. They don't see the change because you care about that person that much.
Yeah.
And you already have a kind of weird perception of yourself anyway, because you don't
Yeah.
you don't see it. So it's easy for that to get away from you, because again, you're not trying to pursue anything. So it's not on your mind to really like focus on yourself.
Yeah. And I think the change is happening at such a, like, a generally speaking, like a really gradual pace. And so it's not like you eat a hamburger and you pack on 10 pounds and the next day you're pinching your belly fat going, oh man, that hamburger really, no, it's like little by little. And so you kind of just get used to it and you're not seeing a huge difference happen in any one jump.
No. And it's the thing, you don't really see it getting away from you. But I remember, like, plenty of times, like, I'd get a pack of Oreos, and before, that box of Oreos would be around for, like, 2 weeks, like, just maybe 3 weeks. Like, a sleeve was gone within, like, 10 minutes. You start thinking, trying to add that up, and you're like, "Okay, it's like, who is eating all these cookies?" I'm like, "I didn't eat all these cookies." And yeah, no, you ate them all. Like, you ate them all. Like, you put yourself in a sugar coma. And that's the thing, like, we are built for what feels good.
Yeah.
And food feels good,
Yeah.
you know? Like, you get that dopamine trip, every time, you crack the seal on something that you like, and you're just feeding it over and over again. And that's I think one of the biggest things that we have issue with now is that we give ourselves all the rewards, but we don't work for it.
Yeah. But that's kind of like what our biology is wired for, because you think about it, like pre-industrial era. So in other words, 99% of human history, like we needed that dopamine reward to tell us we found something good, because it wasn't so easy to find something good. We didn't have an abundance of sugar. Like we didn't have sugar. Like you might get a bit of fruit in the summer. Maybe you find a honeycomb if it's your lucky day. But yeah, you didn't. I guess maybe you dry some figs in the sun that you carry with you through the winter. Like you didn't have that, and now we have it available all the time, and we're constantly being told through marketing messaging, "Hey, your life is hard. You deserve this." And oh, that sounds good. Yeah, my life is hard. Let me think about all the reasons why my life is hard. Then I deserve this reward.
No, and it would be foolish to tell anyone that life isn't hard. Life is hard.
Yeah.
I can't. I wish that it wasn't. Trust me. How many of us wish life wasn't? But through struggle, that's only where you're gonna find like the true you. Like, how are you willing to push through it? And I don't know everyone's circumstance, because we all come from different starting spots, but you can control your world. Now, how much work that's going to take for you, I don't know for you in particular, but you can do it. You just
Yeah.
have to want it that much. Like, number one thing that I try telling myself is be the star of your own movie. Like, you are the protagonist of your action movie. Like,
Yeah.
how do you walk through that life and be that person that you want to be? Because you can be that person. You can be honest. You can be courageous in times of need. You can be helpful. You can be kind. You can be courteous. You can do all these things to make you feel like you are the lead character in your story. That doesn't take money. That doesn't take fame. It just takes you being a decent person.
Yeah.
And that will attract things to you.
Yeah, that's a really powerful statement too, because and I've heard it said that like you can either star in your own movie or be an extra in someone else's. And yeah, so it's like you can live out what somebody else, and I try to keep aspirational things grounded somewhat in reality. In other words, I'm 39 years old. Doesn't matter. I'm 6'1" and white. There's no way I'm going to be a star NBA player. Like it's just no. I know I was a pretty good basketball player back in the day, but there's no way on earth, no matter how much I think about this, I'm not going to make the NBA anymore. Like that window has passed me by. But that doesn't mean that like my life is over, but it means if I'm going to make an aspirational statement, I want it to be something that pushes me, but I do want to ground it in reality. Otherwise I just end up disillusioned and discouraged and angry and hating the world. And so you said you were kind of inspired by Chadwick Boseman and his physique in the Black Panther. And how long did it take for you to, because I mean I can see, you've got some good muscular shoulders going on there. You've worked hard, man. I can see it. And how long did it take you to kind of get there?
I would say all in all, probably a good solid year. A good solid year of the dieting and consistent exercising. And that's one of the I'm glad you bring that up about like how long it actually took, because I was very much one of those people. And I'll tell you a quick story. So, a couple years back, whether or not people remember, there was a TV show, Biggest Loser.
Yep.
Okay, so we had a bunch of different people from different walks of life, all dealing with weight issues, and they would go to camps. And well, the opening episodes, I'm watching it like he's not as fat as me. I'm not as fat as him. I'm not as fat as her. Like, and I'm picking them out, and then I'm gradually seeing them lose weight. And then I'm like, well, they have all these, people working for them, and they're not in the real world doing this, blah, blah, blah. And then it gets to the finale, and I'm like, they're entirely different people. It's like, it's amazing. Like, and I'm like, well, he still isn't as small as they could have been. I'm still trying to pick things. And until I actually went through my own weight loss journey, which I will tell anyone, if you give yourself the time to go through this journey, you'll learn a lot more about yourself than your relationship with food, your discipline. It's a lot, and you'll learn a lot about yourself. And what I found out that whole time I'm watching that show, I'm fine if you're in that box with me, but once you try to crawl out of that box, that's when I have a problem. But it's not really a problem with you crawling out. It's the fact that I'm not following you.
Right.
I'm not doing anything to improve myself. I just want to be, safe here in this little, the hole that I've built for myself. You're crawling out of the hole. Why are you crawling out of the hole? There's safety in the hole. No, I should have been crawling out. And I just watched time and time go by without me actually taking ownership in myself and making a change. So
Yeah.
I was not upset with them. I was more upset with myself because I had let more time escape me without actually doing something.
Yeah, and that's something really powerful. Again, it's just the crab in a bucket mentality is another one for it. When one crab tries to crawl out, another crab reaches up and tries to pull that crab back down. It's like, no. If we're going to be miserable in here, you got to be miserable in here with me, kind of thing. And that comes from this place of like, I don't believe I'm actually capable of doing this. And so the lack of self-belief means that like I get mad at you doing this because what you're doing is you're actually shining a light, or I'm shining a light by looking at this on the fact that you're doing it and I'm not. And now I have to reflect on myself as I actually am, my relationship with myself, and it's uncomfortable. And I hear a lot of similarities in my own story. I'm not quite 6'3", so you got a couple inches on me, but and I got a little less melanin in my skin. I've had to work on the lighting so that I don't look quite translucent. But it was exactly that. Like I was the garburator. My parents didn't grow up with a whole lot. They worked hard to make ends meet, but it was not easy. And because of that, I remember whenever I was presented with a good meal, I was going to eat that meal. And I was going to eat every scrap of it. Leftovers? No. I'm going to eat that,
Yes.
and I got nicknamed the garburator. And for a period of time, I took on the persona of the jolly fat guy as well, because I was like, well, I didn't see a way out. And so I thought, well, I might as well try and pretend that I'm enjoying this. When in reality, like I really did not like it. I did not like being, I got to 330 pounds. I did not like that one bit, but that was exactly what I did. And so you mentioned the military diet. I've heard of this before. I'm kind of curious because I think I have an agnostic stance towards diets, but I don't really have an antagonistic stance towards them anymore. What is the military diet? Was it something you followed, and is it something you would still follow?
Okay. The military diet in unto itself is exactly what it is. It's a diet. This is not something I would tell anyone to, hey, this is how you're going to eat for the rest of your life, because it is very early in the week. It's very you're going to be at a very high caloric deficit for the first 3 days of the week, and you only do it for 3 days a week, and it creates this little discipline in yourself to say, okay, I did all this stuff those 3 days. I can't go off the wagon the next 4, because you can kind of do what you want to do, but you have to be earnest about what you're trying to achieve.
Right.
So, day 1 on the military diet. So on Monday, you wake up, you can have a cup of coffee, a half a grapefruit, a piece of bread, and a tablespoon of peanut butter. That's morning. For lunch, it is a pack of tuna and a slice of bread. For dinner, it is 1 apple, half a banana. You can tell I've done this way too much. 3 ounces of protein, and then a half a cup of green beans. That's day 1. You may have a cup of vanilla ice cream for your dessert. I always opted out for a low-calorie beer. So,
Okay. Yeah.
day 2, your morning, you can have a boiled egg, slice of bread. For lunch, boiled egg, 5 crackers, a slice of cheese. For dinner, 2 hot dogs, a half a cup of broccoli, half a cup of carrots,
Okay.
an apple for your dessert.
Okay.
A 3 is 1 egg in the morning, 2 packs of tuna fish. No, a pack of tuna fish for lunch. And then for dinner, 4 ounces of some kind of fish. That's it. 3 days. But it works because it jump starts your metabolism. You burn a whole lot off.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you're at such a caloric deficit. Then you can't go off the rails and say, okay, well, I did all this. Now I'm going to pig out for the next 4 days. You just have to keep it within reason. So I did that for a good solid 3 months. I would not advise anyone to do it 3 months, but I have this compulsive type of personality. So if I find something that works, then it's like, that's my lucky shoe. I gotta wear this shoe every day at this time and lace it just like this. But because it was working for me. But I do realize that is not something that you can keep consistently because
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to eat. It's really depriving yourself. So after I finished doing that, then I just started doing like sensible dinners. Like, okay, I can have this, I can't have this. Lost my entire love of sweets. Like I like sweets and that, but I'm more savory now. So that's the one big thing that I've learned. I'm like, I'd much rather have like a pork chop or a steak over like cookies or anything. I was like,
totally. Yeah.
And I don't feel as guilty if I eat something like that than if I were to eat like just processed sugar. So there's that long-winded way.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's probably statistics to back this, but I do believe that like African Americans in general have a worse tolerance for refined sugars. I'm inclined to believe because I think if you were looking at the statistics, you would see a greater degree of type 2 diabetes in the African American community. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the case.
No, diabetes does run really high in the African American community. It's one of the things that is just like doesn't really get looked at a lot, but I think except for now, I think health it seems to be like it's coming to people's forefront, especially like going through the pandemic that we've experienced now, which is one of the things that really upsets me about all the coverage about the pandemic. No one wants to talk about, hey, take your vitamins, take care of your health, go outside, take a brisk walk,
get some fresh air,
have a glass of water, don't drink that soda. Like, these are along with, I mean, of course, everybody put your mask on, wash your hands. Yes, all that is great. But also, the healthier you are, the healthier your immune system can be because it's not constantly trying to fight off these small threats when you're actually taking care of yourself. So here's a big thing for me. I don't get sick. Like I very, very rarely get sick. One, I understand that's biological, something that was passed on from, previous generations, but I also take care of myself. That is another thing that I don't think is spoken about enough, especially what we're dealing with now. So take your vitamins. And another thing to all African American people, vitamin D, one thing that they have really shown to be a big thing with the coronavirus is people who have a vitamin D deficiency. So supplement. Due to the pigment of our skin, we don't really absorb a lot of vitamin D naturally from sun. So, and we don't really stay outside, especially now because fall's coming. We'll get even less sun. We spend a lot of time indoors. You need to be supplementing yourself with vitamin D. That is
100%.
my PSA to anyone.
Well, I don't think I get a whole lot of vitamin D either, but I hide from the sun because I say I'm a true Canadian. I come in two colors, red and white. So, but yeah, I 100% agree. So I think I saw the numbers on it are something like those who are vitamin D deficient are 6 times more likely to die if they get sick, and 14 times more likely to be hospitalized. Or I might have that reversed. One is bigger than the other. But by the way, vitamin D deficiency plays a huge role in whether or not you get hospitalized and whether you're at risk of death. And so that's absolutely crucial. And I completely agree with this point. Why do we not speak more about this aspect of it? And there's a part of me that wants to say, because I think some of us just want to hear that, okay, big pharma has come up with the latest solution, so you don't have to change.
See, the, it is a very unpopular view I've had about this from the entire time. I was not anti-vaxxer, but I didn't feel like I needed at the point because like I take care of myself. I'm doing all the necessary things. I'm masking up in crowded air. I'm following all your protocol. My mother, who she hadn't seen her children in almost 2 years. She does she's of the age where it is a concern for her.
Yeah.
She also has had some respiratory issues. So I can understand for my mother's sake. So I went out, my brother and I, my brother who's actually a fitness trainer. So like we are the same like mindset, like we take care of ourselves. We haven't had any kind of like issues where we feel like, okay, we may be at risk. But for mom, as all good boys, especially good boy from the South do, you always listen to your mama. So he went out. I believe my brother, my middle brother, he got the Pfizer, and I went and got the Johnson & Johnson. So I was like, hey, let's get this one pop and done. And so much of the information that's coming out now saying that, okay, the effectiveness of these shots are wearing down and we're going to require boosters. But these boosters still don't stop you from getting sick. They only will stop you from getting sick to the point where you be hospitalized. But sometimes you might die, but you can still pass it. So because the information that we were received from the very beginning wasn't direct, I have questions now. And my questions are, what is it all for? So in the early stages, I was like, hey, man, you should go get vaccinated. Now I'm like, man, I'm an asshole for telling you to go get vaccinated. Like, that's how I feel, that's how I feel. I was never one of those people like judging people because it's a very unpopular opinion to have it's your choice. Do it if you want to. Don't do it if you don't want to. Because how can I be upset with you if I got vaccinated? How can I be upset with you if you don't? Because isn't the whole point of me getting vaccinated is to just protect myself?
Yeah.
So, and if you're a rando stranger, you're not going to come in contact with my mother. So I'm not worried about her for you. So do what you want to,
Yeah.
It's gone to the point from it's not a human health concern. It's which political stance you want to side.
Yeah. What a shift. So I came across a video, and I wish I knew the name of the individual who was recording it. He's an African-American gentleman, and you might have seen the clip. But he says, okay, I think it's 72% of Black New Yorkers are not vaccinated. And he said, you might wonder why we have such hesitation. And then he goes through the history of, he said, there was the Tuskegee trials, I think, back in like 1960s or something like that. There's the Agent Orange. There was, the radiation thing. So they use Black people as guinea pigs for a lot of these experimental medical therapies in the past under the guise of this is for your health. And so he's like, it's kind of natural that we might become suspicious or be suspicious of medical interventions. When you look historically speaking, Black people have very often been used as a source of medical experimentation. Did any of that ever cross your mind, or do you ever hear anyone thinking about that?
I've heard people thinking that, and it's valid to have your skepticism when government comes across with mandates. But and here's the biggest thing for me is, okay, the vaccine is being handed out to everyone. It is, it is being handed out to everyone. So are they actually trying to do it to a specific group of individuals? But that doubt is there.
Yeah.
It is there. So you can't really fault someone for having an assumption about something when it's been proven that something like this has happened before, and that the government hasn't been truthful in this entire thing from the beginning. Because we can remember back. Here's the thing. You couldn't say that this thing may have originated in Wuhan. The problem is people wanted to fixate on China. No, no, no. This is a facility that happens to be in China.
Yes. Yeah.
But they had twisted it to where it was like Chinese people did it. No, it's not Chinese people did it. It's actually American funded. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
But now that we can say it now, it's cool to say, "Oh, it started in Wuhan."
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's that's what I said. Like, this whole entire thing is just. I hate to say this. I hate to say it this way, but people want to claim that they're woke. Like, I'm woke.
Yeah.
I'm woke. You know what you're woke to? You're woke to the shiny little thing that they want you to pay attention to.
Yeah.
You're not paying attention to what I'm doing. You only see what the right hand's doing. You're not seeing what the left hand's doing. It's a bait and switch.
Well, a part of me feels like that's the case, because I'm not anti-vax either, but I am pro-choice, because as time goes on, we understand that there are risks that aren't being talked about that are starting to emerge in the data. So, for example, I want to make sure I have the data correct, but I believe it's you are if you're a young male in particular, that you're 5 times more likely to be injured by a vaccine than you are to suffer long-term health ramifications from the virus itself. And so we have to ask ourselves, what is the trade-off? Now, if you go into, because if you were to go into, let's say, a doctor's office and you have a 15-year-old and an 85-year-old, are you going to offer them the exact same treatment? Probably not. You're going to consider other things. And another thing I think that's emerged here is the fact that what is clear is, like, a lot of the vaccinations were a very narrow scope, a very targeted type of immunity that's being provided. And so because of that, there's a whole broad spectrum that's kind of getting missed. And so what we've uncovered is, it looks like vaccines should not be relied upon as the only way to address this. And I think number 3, I would say this has now become what we would call endemic. In other words, I think COVID is here to stay. As a virus, it's mutated so many times that it's going to be here to stay. Like, it's going to be like the common cold or the flu. It's around. And so it's like the flu shot is kind of a so-called shot in the dark, right? So they try and predict based on, hey, this is how we think it might have mutated. And that's why it might be 10% effective. It could be 60% effective. Well, I think you're going to find the same thing with the COVID shot, because I think what they're going to do is they're just going to do a combined flu COVID shot annually kind of thing, right? Hey, it's October, time to get your annual COVID flu shot. And they have to try and predict how it's going to mutate, because we didn't realize how highly mutable this virus is. And so vaccines can't really keep up with it. So we need other things as well. We need other tools in the toolbox, is I think what people are trying to say. They're trying to say, hey, let's stop treating the vaccines as like the only tool in the toolbox. Let's look at nutrition and supplementation, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, quercetin, NAC. That combination itself has proven to be like really beneficial in supporting your immune system. And then you could go, well, what about early treatment protocols? Something as simple as like an aspirin can help with the clotting factors, because we know now that COVID is actually a vascular disease more so than a respiratory one. Stuff like that. And I'm just, riffing a little bit here, but the point being, we need more tools in the toolbox to deal with this.
Oh no, absolutely. Here's the number one thing with this. I'm not a doctor. I swear I
Yeah.
have a true grasp and understanding of this. But so we've had different, like, you bringing up the mutations of the disease.
You're a thinker, though.
For one moment, it seems like, okay, so now we have different forms of corona that are coming out, like iPhones, like, because we got Delta Plus, lot some I don't even know, but there was so many. But the thing was, I was like, so how do they test for like what variant you have? And I was like, oh well, it's just a corona test. So you don't have like a corona variant test? Which How does that work? Because you're like, really? There's like, so how do we know we have different variants? How do we know we have different strands? Again, I'm not equipped to handle these type of questions, like 100%. But we need to be having people that we can actually trust to deliver that information to us without them trying to grandstand and be like, no, it was me. I'm the one with the correct answer. And it's like,
Right.
you're not the one with the correct answer because you're not on this team. And whatever's on this team is the obvious answer. That is the problem that we're having. Like, we can't even now as a
Have a
society.
discussion.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the thing. Like, you can't even, so many things that go on in today's society. It's like, I can't even raise the question
Yes.
of
Yeah.
someone having offense. I'm like, here's the thing. I'm coming to you from a place of ignorance about the subject matter. So for me to ask you the question is your opportunity.
Yeah.
This is your opportunity to change thought. But instead of changing thought, you choose to go on the defensive. So now I'm thinking, well, the hell, whatever you have to say. And I'm never asking a question like that again. So you have twofold ruined an opportunity to actually invoke thought. Like, I'm conversations that we have, I'm not trying to win my conversation. I'm just telling you my stance. Now, if you gain something from that, or I gain something from your stance, awesome.
Yeah. It's been productive.
Exactly. We can't be having conversations where we're trying to win. This isn't a debate. We're having a conversation. We come from two different walks of life. So of course we are always off the rip are going to see things from different perspectives. There are things you're going to see that I have no perspective on. And there's things that I've seen that you're going to have no perspective on. But we can come to this conversation as human beings and discuss where we see things and how they may lie for us. And perhaps then we can have some kind of understanding about who we are and how do we move forward together where no one gets left behind.
Yeah.
But we're trying to win.
And Leon said it's not only the messenger we have to examine, but the message. And I'm just going to throw this out there. Leon, I think you and Shaman would have an amazing conversation as well. Leon also is a podcaster, by the way, who runs Altitude Adjustment is the name of his podcast out of St. Louis. And so awesome. we'll have to connect you two gentlemen as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, I love the fact that we can have this like a civil conversation where we're actually kind of exploring ideas versus like trying to debate and argue points to like win, because this isn't a conversation about winning. I come from an analytical research background. I was a former nanotech researcher. I've been in the world of science, of chasing funding. I've been in the lab, the scientific process. Like, I'm familiar with that. Science is not objective. We would like it to be objective. Science is political. Science is political and corrupt. Yes. It's become this bloated entity with big power players who, again, are basically shutting down discussion on opposing viewpoints in consort with other powerful players who control our media. And so and I'm an advocate for free speech. And here's why. It's controversial to say, like, I support freedom of speech in one sense, because people are like, well, people are going to say bad things. I'm like, yes, but if they say it in a public square, we can challenge it. If you say you're not allowed to say that, they're going to they didn't lose that thought. They didn't lose that belief. All they're going to do is they're going to take their belief to another conversation, and that conversation might be happening in an echo chamber instead of in the public square. I would rather hear their conversation in the public square than them getting turned into an extremist listening in an echo chamber.
I'm so glad that we're coming to this part of the conversation, because here's the thing. Everyone, like, it is true, freedom of speech. We have the right. You have the right to have whatever opinion you choose to have. What comes along with that, you have to deal with. Once it's in a public forum when everybody can hear. The emperor has no clothes. That is what I want. Like, be who you are. Don't feel that you have to be like, because when you show me the person that you are, If it's somebody that I don't want to associate myself with, thank you. I now know how longer have to associate with you. Your thinking no longer has to take up residency in my head because
Yeah.
you're valid to me. We allow too many people to take up real estate in our brain when we don't have to. That's the thing. Guess what, people? I know we're using the internet right now. You're probably watching this on Facebook or Twitch or something like that. Facebook, not a real place. Twitter, not a real place. Instagram, not a real place. Like, it's not. Like, it's not. It's fake for the most part, you know?
Curated.
And we have to understand, because here's the thing. It's all fine and dandy when this person that you don't like, they canceled him, we delisted him, he's banned, he can't use this platform anymore. That's cool until the message that you want to hear goes along
Yeah.
with the status quo, with the thinking. And here's the thing, we have to be free thinkers. We have to challenge thought. That is the only way we move forward.
Yeah.
Number one thing is, and this is why I appreciate my mother more than any human that I will ever hope to meet, is she gave me one valuable gift, and that is the gift to think, to wonder.
Yeah.
Like, don't always look at what's down. You have to look up.
Yeah.
To wonder, is there more to this? And if there's more to this, then any story that gets brought to me, well, there's got to be more to this. There's got to be something that you don't want me to know, because
Yeah.
I'm skeptical to a fault about things, because we as humans have only proven to be fraudulent in our stories. Like, it goes back to like the first guy who came back with fire. Like, he claimed that he started it, but he probably, it was like a lightning strike that caught
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah. He
Somebody
grabbed a
else
stick and
brought it
stuck
back,
it in there.
and that's the thing. It's like, history is written by the winners. If no
Yes.
one
Yeah.
else is there to see it, then I can tell this tale of anything. You
Yeah.
weren't there to see it, but here I am. So I guess it must be true.
Yeah.
No.
And so what we have happening here is we have like the biggest communication platforms going, we get to tell the story because we now wield all of this influence and power. And we know throughout history, if you look at human behavior, humans don't do that well with power. We don't do that well with being given vast amounts of power and wealth. And so but interestingly, the media I think plays a huge role in triggering people, in bringing people into a place of being afraid or being fearful. And it's done deliberately, not necessarily, well, I would say not necessarily maliciously, or not always maliciously, but what it does is it keeps your eyeballs on their information, on their channel, on their stream. If we can keep you afraid, your primal brain is triggered and you'll keep watching, and we keep getting clicks and revenue and views and advertising dollars and so on. That's the broken media model that we have. And so it's in their best interest from a financial standpoint to keep you afraid, because you'll keep watching and because like news travels at the speed of light now, like instantaneously around the world, there isn't time to fact check, because now you're in competition for who can have the next biggest attention grabbing headline. And so media it's like a game of telephone. I don't know if you ever played that, where you start with one person whispering something in the next person's ear. By the time it gets to the end of the line, that story has dramatically shifted. And so what we think of to be truth, I mean, I don't know, there's a lot of things to be skeptical about here.
And it's the whole thing is, if it bleeds, it leads. Like, that is the unfortunate truth. Here's it, like, okay, I'm gonna give my age away a little bit here, but there was a time where you could watch the news and there was always like this little fluffy, local piece.
Yeah.
Good people doing good deeds in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You don't see that anymore, because it's not what it doesn't bring people's eyes. It doesn't get people, clutching the pearls. That's what you really want. That's what you want. That fear. You want to, like, such and such many people died today. Well, here's the thing: how many people survived? How about, let me know that? Like, yes, we know it was tragic, but how many people survived? That's what's really important. And it's gotten to a point now where that's all you want to hear about is the most negative parts. Trust me, I know humans, they're kind of shit. Like it's unfortunate, but there's a lot of good in us too. Like we would
Yeah.
not be here if there wasn't, but
Yeah.
that doesn't get highlighted.
Yeah. There's this propensity to, like, there's no money in the good. There's some channels out there, like I think it's one called The Dodo, and they show like sort of happy animal stories and things like that. And they probably do get some views because it does make us feel good. But
Cry
it,
every time I watch them.
oh yeah, you see, the dog that was rescued from like a gutter drain or something like that, and they, and you see 3 months later they're this happy little dog with a family of other, these beautiful stories. Like we like that, but it's still not the ones that are going to be grabbing our attention. And it's true. There's been this shift in the media away from, and yeah, we have to actively seek out positivity if we want, because we have a hardwired negativity bias. So when I work with people, for example, in the world of weight loss, one of the things that I focus on is practicing daily gratitude. Because if we don't, like, because we can train our brain to start looking for good things. Because right now we're conditioned to constantly look for negativity. And I think that shortens our lifespan and is damaging to our health as well.
Oh, 100%. Like, you have to surround yourself with some form of positivity. Like it's imperative. Um, I'll tell anybody it's like, yeah, it's foo, whatever. But I truly feel that I feed off people's energies. You know, if there's somebody who's like constantly complaining, this sucks. Eventually, I'm kind of like, and it may not be the point where I'm feeling exactly like them, but I'm like, I wish you would just shut the hell up. Like, why are you?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I get it. Yeah, it's bad. Everything sucks. I understand. But if you're around somebody who is genuinely enthusiastic, genuinely happy about their existence, you have no choice but to draw off that, you know. And here's and another thing, I challenge anybody. It again, say whatever you want, like a rub crystals together. I'm not really that kind of shaman, but anyway, um, trust me. Tomorrow, just try it out. Try it out tomorrow. Somebody that you don't normally talk to, just tell them, hey, when you going, make full eye contact and just tell them, hey, I guarantee you that make you feel better. I guarantee it. Just that simple thing. Because we don't realize how our small interactions, however small they may be, how big they will be for that person.
Yeah.
Give it a shot. Like, trust me. I understand it sounds like on some mystic type woo,
No, this is
but try it out. Just give it a shot. See what happens.
it's like you kind of get back to a degree, you kind of get back what you put out in the world.
Yeah.
You put out negativity and complaining, and you're going to hear it coming back to you because you're going to attract people who want to be negative and complain. There's something interesting you also kind of touched on here, and I wanted to, I call it 1 versus 1 million. You talked about, you hear about all the deaths, but you don't hear about all the people that survived. And, you look at two headlines, 1 million people died today of the coronavirus or something like that. That probably wasn't a headline today, but anyways. But then you hear, 42-year-old mother of 3. All of a sudden, that takes on a whole different meaning because it's very hard for us to conceptualize 1 million people.
Right.
I've been to Auschwitz. I lived in Poland. Auschwitz is where millions of people died. You walk through that camp, and I think everybody should experience it to realize this is the capacity of humans for evil. But people ask me, like, what did I feel walking through that? And I said it was actually hard to feel something because it's so overwhelming. I walked into the gas chambers. Try to imagine people being shoved in there and like walk into a room filled with human hair. Filled. It's like boggling to our mind. But when we go to that one person, we can see ourselves in that story. And so the media will play this trick as well. Yes, they might tell you some numbers and statistics or whatever, and you can fudge a lot of things with statistics, but they're going to tell you that one story that's going to grab your attention because you're going to see yourself in that story.
Right.
And so that's kind of one of the tricks they play. And once you know that, and I call it a trick as though they're maybe being malicious, but I'm like, they're playing the game is what they're doing.
Oh, in game is really the perfect way. And maybe you're aware of it, maybe you're not aware of it, but statistics have become the new way, because statistics just means algorithm, and we all have algorithms. The number one thing that I'm trying to explain to people is the biggest commodity in the world today is not land, it's not gold, it's not money, it's attention. That's the number one thing. Consciousness, your conscious space is the real money getter. Absolutely. Because
See, there we go. Yeah.
that's where people want to take up space. So anytime you use Google, have you noticed when you search for something on Amazon, you want to buy this, you're like, I'll just put it in my cart and I'll just forget about it. Anytime you use Google now, it's like, hey, you remember that thing that you put in your cart? It's really cool, isn't it? And you're like, okay, thanks, Google. And then you go to another website and you're like, hey man, that thing that was cool on the last page is even cooler now. You should go buy it. And they will constantly feed you and feed you over and over. And you don't even see that it's happening to you. You don't even have to like want to buy the thing. You just casually looked at it one day. And it's like, hey man, that thing that you looked at the other day, you can't live the rest of your life unless you get it. So come on.
Yeah.
I'll take you to the website. Let's go. You know?
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Like Facebook, Instagram. It's all just to suck up your attention, to keep your eyeballs focused on the shiny thing, but not the real thing.
That's why I showed the book Digital Minimalism. That really changed my relationship with technology. Like I run an online business. I'm an online marketer. I'm an online podcaster, and it really highlighted this world of the attention economy. That's what they're basically harvesting our attention. You mentioned statistics, and I wanted to maybe put something out there for people to consider. What if it's like you're 11 times more likely to die if you don't do this? And you go, oh my gosh, 11 times more likely to die. That sounds really scary. Well, what if the risk goes from 0.00001 to 0.00001? Like you dropped one decimal point. And so this is how statistics can be used to mess with your mind, where you're 13 times more likely to die. And it's like, okay, but you're 99.9999% likely to survive. Now you're only 99.999% likely to survive. So they play with numbers as well. And so that's where like being a critical thinker is not an easy thing to do in the online world. Because our attention span is being shortened. We're like, just give me the answer. Just give me the answer. And I think that's part of the reason why we're in this predicament. Just give me the answer. Boom, here you go. This vaccine is the answer. This pill is the answer, until it's not.
and that's one of the things that takes me back to. And I hated this while I was in school. I hated it so much, because I wasn't a homework guy. I was like test and in classroom. I was like, I know how to do it, so I just get a passing grade on it. Like it's easy to me. And I had it was my algebra teacher, and I forget her name, but it's the only one of the people who would like actually challenge me on certain things. And the one thing she would always put on my paper, even though if I had the correct answer, show your work.
Right.
You got to show the work, because it's so easy to be like, here it is.
Got the answer.
I don't know how you got here. You got to show the work. It's like I said, it's very easy to just give you something. Even if you've done it correctly, I don't know how you got here. I don't know what you're doing. You could have just took the answers off of such and such.
Yeah,
you can do it. And
shout out to Shaman's algebra teacher. If you ever see this, do the work, show the work. Yeah, and I think that's like maybe those are two really, really good points to sort of wind up on here. If people are going to take something away from this conversation, because we started with Brisket, then we got into your health journey, and then we got into kind of critical thinking and the present circumstances of the world. And so in all of this, what would you like people to take away from this conversation?
The biggest thing for me that I would love people to know is be a thinker. Be a thinker. You know, it, challenge thought out there. Try new stuff. Don't limit yourself to your surroundings. Make your circle as big as you possibly can. Get to know people that don't think like you, that don't look like you. Get out there because I mean that's the true slice of life. And also, always put that out there because I'm a bit of a space cadet kid. Um, we're not alone.
Yeah.
That's for you to think on. Come listen to my podcast. I do a lot of crazy thought like that. We can talk about big things like aliens, spaceships, or Big Bang Theory. It's all good over here.
Yeah, and I do want to give a shout out to Shaman's No Room to Talk podcast. Some absolutely brilliant conversations, and if I understand correctly, the concept of the podcast here really your podcast is we struggle to make room for conversations from differing perspectives, and you want to hold space for that. Just about I would say, just about anybody with any perspective can come on and have a conversation with you. And I know that we had our first conversation, and I felt like we left as friends, and I said, like, as soon as the borders open, like my door is open.
Coming.
You come into the mountains, and we're gonna do up some brisket. We'll do up some pork shoulder roast, and and thank you so much, Jeff, for tuning in. Jeff said from start to finish, outstanding. Intended to tune in briefly, move to Netflix, but there's been a great conversation.
Hey, Jeff, thank you. And again, like that's really what the podcast is for. People is number one thing is just conversation because this has really been a big journey for me because I've learned so much from talking to different people that I would never talk to before, and they're taking the time out to actually give me the opportunity to share their message, share their story with the world, and I get to meet cool people like John. So like it's been a win-win opportunity for me.
And Jeff, also, I'm gonna give a shout out for Jeff and his podcast, the Jeff Macalino podcast, which again, Shaman and Jeff, you guys should probably connect as well. It's funny, Leon, Jeff, you guys need to connect with Shaman here and join an interesting conversation. I think both of you, from two totally different perspectives, would bring a really interesting conversation to the table. So,
hey, I think I've proven I love to talk. So we can get this. It'd be fantastic. So let's do it.
All right. Thanks again to Shaman Morton for coming on to Wellness Unplugged. It's been an absolute pleasure. What an interesting conversation. We've covered all kinds of things, a lot more than we intended, but you've given us a lot to think about. Thank you again, Shaman. And for everybody else out there tuning in, we will have another show tomorrow, and there'll be another show on Friday as well. So I'm putting out 3 episodes a week of this live podcast broadcast business. Tomorrow's episode is going to come out at noon. And Friday's episode is going to come out at 4:30 Eastern, 2:30 Mountain Time, and it's going to be a good one. So stay tuned. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great week.